This segment of the show is brought to you by the PGA Tour Superstore. See why golfers everywhere are proud to call PGA Tour Superstore their golf pro shop. Visit them online at PGATourSuperstore.com. Now back to Chris and more of the show.
And now joining me here on the French Lick Resort guest sign is Andy Lano II. Let me give you a little background on Andy. For 25 years, he was one of the top caddies out on the PGA Tour. The list of tour players that Andy has caddied for is long and distinguished. That list includes players like Kenny Perry, Tom Watson, Peter Jacobsen, Nick Faldo, Chez Reavie, Michelle Wie, and our good friends Dave Stockton Jr. and Richard Zockel. He played high school golf, first of all, at Deering High School in Portland, Maine, then his college golf at Western Kentucky University. And he has been witness to a lot of great golf history. He caddied in over 40 majors, including 9 Masters tournaments and the 2004 Ryder Cup matches. He was on the bag for Michelle Wie in 2006 at the 84 Lumber Classic when she was playing up against the men. He was inducted into the Maine Golf Hall of Fame back in 2010, retired from the PGA Tour in 2016, started his own business called Golf Mastery, which helps players master the game from a strategic management point of view. Go online and check it out, golfmastery.net, and I'm honored to have him with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Andy, thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
Doing great, Chris. Hey, I appreciate you having me on, and just enjoying the sun out here in the great state of Washington.
Good for you. So, Andy, I want to start, like I mentioned in your intro, you're from Maine. You played your college golf at Western Kentucky. How does a New England kid end up playing his college golf out in Kentucky?
The short version was, as growing up as a kid, I played, the 3 sports, basically football, basketball, baseball. And I used to play basketball with a gentleman that went to Western Kentucky. And he kind of recruited me to go down there and check it out because I ended up dropping baseball as a freshman in high school and choosing golf over baseball, which was a tough decision because I was pretty good at baseball up to that point. But I had aspirations and dreams of trying to play. So I said, I've got to go where the climate's a little warmer. So had a connection there, went down, actually made the team as a walk-on, and that's basically how it happened. And that's where I met
guy
Kenny
that you
Perry.
ended up right. You end up meeting Kenny Perry, and the next thing you know, golf history is made with the two of you teaming together for many years. What was it like playing as a partner with Kenny in college?
Well, I got to tell you, Kenny on our team, we had a fantastic team. We had a great lineup of people. Kenny's obviously done the best of anybody on our team, but it was tough to even break the top 5 to make a road trip. But Kenny was a great player then. The ironic thing about Kenny is he never won a college golf tournament. He finished second a bunch of times, but he never really won one. He won a bunch of mini tours, and as you know, he's done quite well on the PGA Tour with 14 wins and an additional 10 more, I guess, on the Champions Tour. So it was fun to play with Kenny, and actually had a special moment. I made my first hole-in-one with Kenny standing next to me, so that was pretty special. Because that's about the only time I've ever beat him on a hole.
And Andy, you were on the bag with Kenny for a long time, including his win in your backyard there at the 94 Bank of Boston Classic. So I was curious, what was it like getting a win on tour in front of sort of the home fans for you?
I got to tell you, all the wins that I was fortunate enough to be a part of were special, but that one really was special. And the reason why is obviously, as you mentioned earlier, being from Portland, Maine, going to Worcester or Sutton, Mass, that was the nearest tour event for us to go attend. We only had there or Hartford, and Hartford was another 50 miles. So my dad used to take me down there as a kid, and watch. And I was familiar with just obviously the holes around there. But a lot of funny different things happened that week. But, Kenny wasn't initially even going to go to the tournament. He had played like 6 in a row, but he started to play really good. And I encouraged him, and he never had any luck up there. And he really wanted to go home. But, we talked about it, and he realized he was playing good. He goes, you know what? Maybe you're right. He had some really nice friends up there that he stays with, and they talked him into it. So we got up there, and we just kind of went along, and we ended up winning the tournament, and I'll never forget it. It was really neat. And, we nudged, David Faraday by 1 shot.
And Andy, you were also on the bag for him at the 2004 Ryder Cup at Oakland Hills, which wasn't the U.S. team's finest hour. But when you get an opportunity to be a part of a Ryder Cup and be on the bag in an event like that, what's that like?
I mean, honestly, outside of the outcome, it was amazing. And Hal Sutton was our captain, and I say this is Hal Sutton was as I say, a pro caddy guy. So he was a 4 caddy guy, Back when I started in '87, I mean, caddies could barely even get near the locker room or around it. Hal, I mean, he really opened up the door for what the caddies have today at these events. I mean, he gave us a Cadillac courtesy car. We parked next to the players. We had a locker inside. We ate with the players. I mean, we had input. We had a first-class ticket to the event. So, I mean, Hal did everything first class, and it was really neat to be a part of that. I mean, just to, playing, and caddying for your country was a neat deal. Obviously did it a couple times in some President's Cups too, with a little more success. But I mean, yeah, that was a neat deal. And, it was a different animal. I got to tell you, it was way different than just a regular tour event.
Is the pressure different or the same as playing in a major?
For the team event? I mean, for the Ryder Cup?
I mean, when you're a part of a Ryder Cup, is the pressure the same or is it different?
You're probably not going to believe this, but for the players, it's more because they're playing for 11 other guys. And, when you're on a major, obviously there's pressure, but it's you. And if things don't go your way, then you've got you. But when you start going out and partnering with someone and, you got other guys relying on you, it's a little bit of it's a different kind of feeling. And sometimes guys handle it better than others. So that's the best way I would explain it. I mean, we tried to caddy the same way you would in a normal event, because the bottom line is, you still need to get the ball in the hole fast. So, I mean, but there definitely is a different feel for it. And it's definitely, with golf being an individual thing, the one thing I say about golf as a professional sport, it's pretty unique. It's really the only sport where a player actually has someone out there with them every step of the way, goes along the journey with them. I mean, most everything else is individual, outside of, coaches calling timeouts and all that kind of thing. So the team thing really does bring a different aspect to the whole, scenario and the mental approach.
And Andy, you've been a part of 9 different Masters tournaments, and we all know how well Augusta National treats the players and the patrons. And you mentioned here how well Hal Sutton treated you guys at the Ryder Cup. What's it like being a caddy at Augusta National? How are the caddies treated there?
I mean, really good. They're a lot better now. I mean, but always very good. I mean, we always had great parking there. I mean, as you know, traffic is a challenge, and they always took care of us as good as could be expected. I mean, it's one long week. It's a lot of long days. But if you're at the Masters, then you know what? That's where you want to be. I mean, people don't realize how hilly and how exhausting Augusta National is. I don't know if you've been there, but wearing the overalls and doing all that kind of deal. I mean, it's a long day, and I'm not saying that to complain, but I mean, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. But it's such a thrill, and it's so exciting and so electric. Being the only major that you go to the same course every year makes it really cool and unique. So if you're there, you're doing pretty good, or you've had a pretty good year.
Yeah, but take that a step further, Andy, because I've often wondered, and I've been fortunate to go out to the Masters every year since 2001, and as we've said often on this show, the TV doesn't do justice to the elevation changes and what the topography of the golf course is like. And there you are, right? You mentioned you got the white overalls on, you got a bag that I'm sure is weighing 50, 60 pounds, over your shoulder, and you're going up and down those hills all day long. That's got to be one of the most exhausting events, and you're doing it all week long for the practice rounds, and then you got the par 3, and then you've got the tournament itself. That's got to be a heck of a grind for that week.
You know what? It is a grind, but you know what? You kind of plan it out. You kind of pace yourself, I want to say. I mean, the other thing that we do there too is, I always went out and got all the pins. So you had to get up early, whether you were playing at 1 o'clock or whatever, 10 o'clock. you could go out and watch them set the pins. And, a lot of us go out there and used to get those and not just count on the pin sheets. So there's a lot of like behind the scenes work that a lot of people aren't aware of that goes on there. But again, the emotion and the high of being there, I mean, guys will do it over and over and over and never feel a thing. I mean, you have those, certain times where we've had rain delays and long days and all that kind of thing, but that's all part of it. You're there to try to have your player put that green jacket on Sunday, and pretty much everybody that's there will do anything they can to see that happen.
And Andy, for all of us that love that golf tournament and love that golf course, I think we all think we know it so well because it's a tournament. It's in the same place every year, and it's a major, and for a lot of us, it's our favorite major. But I'm guessing the course isn't exactly the same that we think it is year after year. When you've gone back all those times, did you notice, like, are the greens different even though they look the same? Are the undulations different? Or is it exactly the same as you remember it from the year before?
No, it was never the same. And whether they put a different wrinkle in a green or they put, they might have changed a tee. They didn't really, they would tweak the course every year. And because they didn't want anyone to really know, like a certain putt, like, oh, I saw this on TV 5 years ago, this is going to go in. But, they don't really want that. And as, now with this equipment, the way the equipment's going, for instance, I was there in 97 when Tiger blew the place up, right? 18 under. Well, next thing you know, they showed up the next year and there were bunkers where there weren't bunkers. They like I say, they Tigerized the place. I mean, they had them out there 300 and there was no blowing it over the corner and into, over into the 10th fair, the 18th fairway and all that kind of thing. So they tweak it every year. I mean, they're tweaking it now. I mean, as you know, the courses it's closed most of the summer, and they just put little tiny things in there, but you have to check it and you have to do your homework and be ready to go. Those 3 days of prep are huge there at the Masters.
And Andy, if it wasn't for people like Mr. Palmer in the 50s and the 60s and Mr. Nicklaus in the 70s and then Tiger since the late 90s, the game being more global now, certainly more prize money than that there used to be, thanks to Tiger coming out on tour and all of the sponsors and all of the hype and everything that he's done to grow the game. Did you ever talk to Mr. Palmer, Mr. Nicklaus, or Tiger and talk to them about the impact that they had on the game and certainly the amount of money that your players were able to play for and win?
Well, I mean, actually, once Tiger came to the scene, I mean, the purses basically went up like 5 times. I mean, when I started caddying, like first prize was $90,000. I mean, they were $500,000 purses. So now all of a sudden Tiger shows up, and it isn't too long before like the winner's getting paid $1 million. So every time we won, I used to go up to him, or whenever I saw him. I mean, we didn't necessarily play like, the same schedule, but I used to go up and thank him. And he'd look at me and he'd go, what are you talking about or whatever? And I would say, hey, Tiger, look, my guy made $1 million last week. I got 10% of that. If that wouldn't happen if you didn't come to golf. So he'd just kind of give you a wry smile and he'd walk off, and very, immodest about it all. But yeah, and obviously then, the road was paved by Arnie and Nicklaus and Trevino and those type of players, that they Fuzzy Zeller and Curtis Strange and all these people, they brought their excellence to the game, which helped amp it up for all these other guys. So, I mean, everybody gets credit. It's just fortunate that, the money really started coming to golf a little bit right before the millennial, really, when Tiger hit the scene, because he exploded the thing. There's nobody that moves the needle like he does.
And Andy, you were also there with Michelle Wie when she was just 16 years old, out there competing against the guys on the PGA Tour at the 2006 84 Lumber Classic. What was it like being there for Michelle, and how did she keep herself motivated, focused, calm, all those sorts of things with, I'm sure there had to be a million distractions going on for her that week?
Yeah, well, I mean, they hired me, their team hired me to come out there, and I caddied the week before over in Switzerland for at the Omega Masters. So we had kind of a warm-up week over there, and she is a fantastic kid. I mean, she was an absolute treat to work for, and I can tell you, she was not scared of anybody. So, I mean, all I basically tried to do is, go out there and just try to, encourage her and just basically try to help her out like I would anybody else. But she was pretty fantastic. I mean, it was, the odds weren't really with her to be able to make a cut out there against them. I mean, she played and hit the ball at that time. She was hitting the ball 275. That's pretty good for a 16-year-old, I mean, she was hitting it by some of the guys we played with. So, I mean, it was a complete treat to caddy for her. Obviously, later on she had more of her, finally got her major and has had, some injury problems lately or whatever. But, I mean, it was a great experience. And like I said, I was amazed by her composure and her focus because, playing with guys it didn't bother her one bit.
And Andy, I imagine sort of life as a caddy is similar to as I would think for a referee in basketball or an umpire in baseball. If we hear your name during a tournament, it's usually not because, social media saying, gee, what a great job Andy Lano and the caddies are doing out there. It's probably not for all the right reasons. So what's it like as a caddy out on tour? You're sort of there with your guy, but you're also, if your name is out there, it's probably not a good thing. What's life like as a caddy from a recognition perspective?
Well, from it's actually evolved, in the favor of the caddy. I mean, more and more caddies are getting recognized, and more of the announcers are speaking about them. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but I think it's beginning of either the end of last year, whatever. There's been the Caddy Network has been created. And that's a specific network just for caddies. So from the time that I started to now, I mean, caddying, it's a big time thing. I mean, there's a lot of folks that are interested in what the caddies are doing, what they're saying. There's a lot of very good players, the caddies out there that they can really, really play that just weren't quite good enough to be a PGA Tour pro. But I'll tell you what, if you went out and played around with them, you'd try to scratch your head and figure out, why. I mean, I know Webb Simpson's caddy, Paul Tesori, outstanding player, Ted Scott, outstanding player for Bubba Watson. So, I mean, the caddies, they're getting a lot more recognition, and when their guy gets in the light, even the other day, Brennan Little, another guy that, caddy from Mike Weir in 2003, and then lo and behold, 16 years later, he gets another major with Gary Woodland. So, I mean, there's some great caddies out there. And, the best thing is you just try to hang in there with your player and just kind of go along for the ride. And when he calls on you, you give him what he needs and go from there.
Andy, just a couple more before we let you go. And you started a wonderful business where people can tap into your mind and your experiences to better understand the strategy of playing the game of golf. Talk about what you're doing with Golf Mastery.
Yeah, so Golf Mastery. So what I've basically done is take my 25 years of walking next to the greats and seeing how they practice and seeing, what they do to prepare, and then taking my craft, which my job was to go out into the course and kind of take it apart and figure out where do we want to play, what's the strategy, where can we shoot the lowest score from, etc. So basically, I've kind of rolled that all up, into a few different areas. One for younger kids to try to inspire them to play golf and try to, invest in golf as a lifetime sport, because there's no limits in golf. If you want to be, a scratch player, you can be a scratch player. If you want to be a 10 or a 15, you can be that too. But golf, as you know, it's an international game. There's no limits on sexes, religions, ages. It brings everybody together. I mean, I've been fortunate. It's brought some of the greatest people in my life, to me, just being involved with golf, and even the PGA Tour, some of my best friends. But basically, it's just trying to have people, kind of take a better look at, how to lower your score. And whether you're a 15 handicapper or a 5 handicapper, there's always ways, strategy-wise, that you can be, practicing to lower your score. And that's basically what I focus on, is trying to do that with folks and trying to get them fired up to play golf and invest in it.
Andy, before I let you go, I know you're being from Maine, and I've seen some pictures of you in a Red Sox polo shirt. I'm a Red Sox fan as well. Got to get your thoughts.
Sweet.
Can this team, can they get it together? Can they repeat? What are your thoughts?
Well, I got to say, I had an absolute blast last year because I went to 4 and 5 at Dodger Stadium. So that was a bucket list item for me to attend that, and it was a lot of fun. I've been to a Patriots Super Bowl, I've been to a Celtics championship, and I hadn't been to see the Bruins, but I was hoping last week. But anyway, I mean, I don't think Patry, he's not real thrilled to know that you and I are Red Sox fans, because he's a big Yankees fan, and whenever we get that going, that's not a good subject. But I think they're getting it together. They haven't had Evaldi at all. So, I mean, they're 5 or 6 above. They're trying to get, they're trying to get it together here and make a run. I mean, they're still, for not playing very great, I haven't seen them a lot, but I've been keeping an eye on them, obviously. They're doing fine. I mean, it'll be interesting to see when they get everybody healthy and in line, if they can make a run, because their goal is just to get in, to get into the playoffs, whether it's a wild card or not. They're going to be dangerous. So it'll be interesting to see, but, long way to go. We haven't even played half the season, so lots can happen, 162 games.
Andy, let our listeners know how they can stay up to date with all the great things you continue to do, again, on your website and then over social media as well.
Right, yeah, they can, at social media, it's Twitter is at Lano II, and Instagram is Lano II. And then, of course, the website is www.golfmastery.net. And that basically has all the options and the things that I'm offering. And there's some unique things on there, and has all my information. It has basically, I call it like my calling card, because it's basically put a lot of time and effort to the content and the input in there. And basically, it basically vets what I've done for 25 years. On the tour, and I'm looking to try to share that with folks and help them, have a bigger smile on their face when they're done putting the pin in on 18.
There you go. That's fantastic. Andy, it's been great having you as part of this show, and I know we've only scratched the surface of the stories and the things that you've been a part of, and then continuing to get updates for what you're doing at Golf Mastery. I hope you'll come back and join me again soon and share more of your stories with us.
Well, I've enjoyed it, Chris, and I really appreciate it. And, yeah, I'd love to come back. Just let me know, and we'll make it happen for sure. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. All the best to you and your family. Look forward to having you back on the show soon. That is Andy Lano. And I tell you what, folks, you look back over the course of his caddying career and the people that he's been on the bag for. Again, we talked an awful lot about Kenny Perry, but he's been there for Tom Watson and Peter Jacobsen and Nick Faldo, and the list just goes on and on. Curious to hear some stories about our good friends Dave Stockton Jr. and Richard Zokol. So looking forward to having Andy back on the show again real soon and catching up with him. Again, golfmastery.net is his website. Check him out and see what he's got available for you.